Welcome to Warblog. Today, guess which game we're going to play? We're going to play this game. Just a quick mention, this is the Ras Ain game, which I haven't yet done. I've put a few roads on. You can tell how far down we're getting because now we've got Ras Ain November. Oh, that hasn't been done yet either. And we've still got the Hong Kong riots, and we should have the Iraqi riots, and I think there are riots going on somewhere else, and there's a few other things. I just, anyway, I've done this one, Ebu NAS. I'm going to play it. It should be a sort of walkthrough, but I think the first thing that I'd like to say is that I think that the Turkish players shouldn't lead with these infantry units. They're just there to hold the front line. They're only there for symbolic purpose. But the extent to which you use them is sort of up to you. Because I don't know what the game balance is. So it could be that they need to use them. Because essentially what they've got is, well, under there's a stack, and they might not have enough. There's a stack under there, of sort of like armour, mechanised and armour, and there's a stack under there, and I think they probably don't have enough, but they've also got two big artillery stacks. Now that's what they're supposed to be doing it with. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. They're supposed to be able to support from the National Syrian Army. There, and there. But these are supposed to be in support, and plus you've got, of course, the Air Force. Perhaps I should put in some Special Forces units. I did it on the other one, and I haven't done it yet, but so that's what they've got to do. And essentially, at the end of the day, they take out pretty much all of this. But they do it in 2 phases. These ones all have 5 objective markers. Now this one has a 2. These have 5 because they basically take this section out last. So they take this section, and then they take this section. But there's no real objectives over here. Maybe I should put the bridges and not objective. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm not going to start waddling either. But strategically, considering what I've said, the balance of things is let's use white. The balance of things is there, and there. There's not a lot of force here, and so presumably what you do is you come down like that. Now, that's one way of doing it that geometrically would make sense, considering that's where your units are. But you could redeploy. Now, maybe I made a mistake, maybe not, but there's not a lot of scope for redeploying. But there is this utility road, because there's pretty much a sort of a border, a defensive border between Turkey and Syria. From what I can gather from the map, it definitely looks like that. This is a sort of an agricultural canal. But in theory they could move along here fairly easily, but there's zones of control, so at the moment they can't. But the significance of what I'm sort of getting to here is that there is the potential, for example, to actually, essentially, I'm talking about that, but to somehow come down this way over this bridge and come like that. Now, I think that's probably not that important because the bridge isn't that significant because you can cross anywhere. But getting to that road and coming along and using that road as supply might be an interesting way of doing it, because it would save then battling through the density of this. So if you look at what's available, if you look at what's there, here it's quite dense. You know, we've got this initial sort of front line of irregulars, but then again there's this, you know, there's regular units there, and you know, there's the thick of it there, the thick of it there, with all this sort of third line of defence there. Now here, there's 2 units to break through, 2 other units to get through, and you wouldn't necessarily have to go across the bridge. You wouldn't be like an epic battle to get across that bridge, because you could attack across here, you could come down here, you know, you could start crossing here. You know, this could be the hex where you actually start doing a crossing. You can't see this bloody colour. I don't use black that much. It's quite good. So what I'm saying is you could come this way. So there's this initial line of defence, this second line of defence. It's quite thick, but you could come this way, at least with something. But there isn't much to do it, so you could use this element here. I don't know. But I think what you've got to start off thinking is what are we actually going to do? You know, are there any easy breakthroughs? Are there any difficult things that have to be taken out? Now there's artillery stacks there, and it could be worth focusing all of the air power on that. There, in the back of my mind, I've still been thinking about there's this thing called SEAD, Suppression of Enemy Air Defence. Now they do have air defences here, and someone asked whether they should do a scenario just on that, but to be quite honest, I think every scenario should start off with multiple things that I'm not going to list in entirety because I can't really think of everything, but what I quite often do is the anti-artillery. We start off with artillery, but at the same time you would start off with the SEAD operations to take out the air defences, but I never do it really because the air defence is usually not that significant. And I think the whole thing of doing those sort of preambles is boring. You know, I'd much rather just for the sake of playing the game, you know, include that unless it's, you know, a real problem. I mean, when I played the recent Yom Kippur scenario, I spent a lot of time focusing artillery on anti-artillery, counter battery fire, and that kind of worked, but it was boring. you know, but it's interesting to sort of see how it happens, and I think a lot of these things become formulaic, and it's not so much that I have a problem with that, but I think once you've hit that sort of formulaic level, you start to sort of think, well, you know, it is, you lose the suspension of disbelief, and it just becomes a number game. Now, I've never really reached that level implicitly, but I think when you start doing the counter battery fire, it becomes more like that. You can almost see it in advance. There's very little strategy involved to some extent. I mean, you know, you've got to get your artillery in the range of the other people's artillery, but you pretty much know which direction it's going to go in. And, you know, I think that's one of the reasons that I'm still battling with the whole idea of it, but I'd really like to give artillery ammunition level limits, because they are just otherwise just too powerful. But the thing is, they are powerful, and that's what's happening in Syria anyway at the moment. They're just focusing on artillery barrages to reduce cities and airstrikes. So it's not such a big issue really. But I think we've got these 3 artillery positions, so it might be worth bearing all our air power on there. Now, I haven't given them a lot of air power. I think they've all got sort of like 6 sorties each. So there's a lot of units, but they've only got 6. So instead of say 3 with 20, they've got 7 with 6. So you get there at the beginning of the game, or you can leave it. But I think the thing to do would be to use a lot of air power and get rid of the artillery, because once that artillery's gone, they won't be able to do much. And I think up here the whole idea would be to really bit by bit take something, 1 or 2 hexes. And I think that, considering where they are, we could take that, well, beat that, push it back, move into there, beat that, push it back, but move into there, and then possibly attack one of these 2. So at the end of that, we should control these 3 hexes. It sort of depends what we do with the artillery, because as I said, I don't want to use the infantry for any offensive purposes, just to sort of stick with the gameplay. So we might be able to do quite a lot, and I think that's what I much prefer the smaller games, and you could almost put that as a small game and try and figure it out. But I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do, because I'm sort of dead tired actually, I'm just going to do this one little section here, explaining my reasoning as I go. The reason being that I'm going to commit artillery air power. I'm going to just leave the air power, because I'm going to assume it's going to go against its artillery units. I don't want to go through that. Now, we've got 4 artillery units here. That's a lot. They can reach 1, 2, 3. They can reach. Now, I don't want to waste it on these irregulars, although they are entrenched. I'd rather get this stack here and this one. So I'll do 2 on this and see how it goes. That's good. So I'm doing 3.4. I could probably do with another one on there, but I'm going to do it on that. I'm going to aim to tackle these 2 units. Now I might not get to this one. What I think I should do. So I've just peppered them both up. Now, in this first instance, I've got 5 units. I want to attack this, but I don't want to waste these units doing it. I'm going to use this Syrian National Army unit, the Sham Legion, to see if I can push that back. Remember, I'm not using the infantry in this instance. Okay, that was a 3-1 and a DR, so I did well, but I should have expected to do well. It's got 1 movement, so we won't be able to do much, I don't think. Might get to actually move into there and still get another sneaky attack on this unit here. I'm going to try it. 0.1 movement left. It gives him another attack. 2-1. That is obviously exhausted. Okay. It's got 1 depression there, but he's got no depression, so I'm kind of desperate not to mess this up. Because I'm going to move the armor into there. But do I attack that on its own? Because theoretically he's worth 2. But because I'm armor, now I can never remember whether I'll get my bonus against an irregular unit. So because I don't want to mess it up, I'm going to go in with some mechanized. At least that will technically give me the numbers. So if he's worth 2 in there, I should at least be 4-1. Hopefully I'll be higher because I've got armor. Let's see how this works. Well, I was probably just as well. I was right in that he was at 2, and I was right in that I was higher than 8, but I didn't have that greater difference, so it's probably just as well I did 4-1, because a 2-1 would have, 7 would have been an exchange, so at least I'm still rolling, which is the main thing. And obviously I'd rather move there and fight there, because if I attack I won't be able to move, but I can move and attack. So do I want to move there and attack into there, or do I want to move there and attack into there? Because after that I can move him there, attack, what I could do actually, I'm going to move this armor forward. That one's 77, that's 76. Which one's which? Because I'll probably mess it up. I'll probably use the one that's moved. I can't distinguish between this one and this one. I'm going to have to assume it's this one. I think I did it right. Yes, I did it right. So he went to there. So I can push everything into here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move the armour into there, attack that. The rest is all going. He's going to come into there. And the other two units are going to go there, and then both these two hexes are going to attack that. I don't think we'll have anything left to attack that. But in the first instance, we need a good roll. Oh, a 12. My dastardly plans. Right, we'll put this up. On a unit there, and him there, and there, and there. And we'll just plough it all into here. We might be able to get another movement out of him. Good. That was difficult. But we haven't had enough movement to do anything. And everyone else is tired. So that's that. I did manage to engage that, but I lost. But I did well to push this unit back. And so that was the considered approach of my first turn. And I'm doing it in that way, A, because I want to go to sleep, but B, because I want to emphasize and focus on the exactness, not so much the precision exactness, but the sort of the intricacies of that situation, in that, you know, just because it's a big map, it doesn't mean you need to be flying all over the place and attacking everywhere. We're just engaged in some hex encounter excitement in this section here. Now, obviously our front line was different at the beginning. It was across there. Pretty sure it was. We made several attacks and we pushed it to what it is now, the red line mainly. With what losses? Well, the only losses that we actually achieve are those losses that are incurred by a failed assault. Now, we had a failed assault there with a 4-1. We've got an exchange, but that was it. Everything else was a success. Now, they haven't attacked back, but I don't think they really can. They can't do any irregular attacks against these two stacks. But I think the thing that's maybe that I'm really trying to button down here is the fact that you have limited resources. They're big resources. I mean, there's armoured units and mechanised units with artillery support, but there's not this sort of massive front line pushing things in. But we can push like a knife through butter where we want. But the thing is, we've got to choose where we push for whatever sort of strategic end we're going to achieve. So in this section here, we could sort of say, well, what have we achieved? Well, obviously we've just taken that chunk there, which gives us several options next turn, you know. But I think the thing that I'm not so much picking up on, but maybe not addressing fully, is what the SDF can do next. I haven't even considered that. Well, we've got this other unit here, so we'd be playing exactly the same game there, but they've got support from these two units, and I think you can't underestimate the significance of these little units. Because they're in the game. So we've got another one over there. I might put a few more of them in as well. But again, there's the stack, but it's got 3 mechanised and 1 armour, but I don't think that's going to make a huge amount of difference. But we've got 1, 1, 1. We've got the goal of a settlement there. So would it be possible to actually just plough straight through? And there's even a road there, look. You can just get onto that road and come round. But without using the infantry, well, so we've got, where's their support, their artillery support? There isn't any artillery support from them, it's only that. So it would be nice to pepper them up. So again, we've got a similar equation there. What can we do with that? And I would be inclined to just drive straight through. I would even put some mechanised in with these. I'm going to do it now. I want to push that out of the way. I want to push that out of the way. And then I want to drive down and take that, if I can. So we push them back there. He can at least engage in that attack there next turn. So we're already in a position to put pressure on that. Do I want to try my luck? And I think I will. And just use these 2 units on that. 6 to 1 and a 1. So that was good. The benefit of that, it means I can put all 3 of these units down there. Like this. Now, they're not going to have a lot of movement left after that attack. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave him out of it there. But no matter what happens, he will be in a zone of control there. So we're not going to be able to get in there this turn. Because they're all like down on movement 2.8. 1. Oh, he's on a 3. There's only one way to find out. Let's just attack. One of these might have enough movement if we win. Well, that was that, but that could have won. And one of those units could have had 1 movement, and that 1 movement could have been enough to get in there. and that would have been the fall of this place. I don't think I put as much thought into that as this one, but we've now shifted the line, you know, with these sort of like these fairly precise, you know, specific attacks. You know, and the front line now looks mouse. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again just because I feel like it. I'd like to get that line just right. That'll do. So we've gained there and we've gained there. Now what does that mean in that sense? Next turn we would be able to some extent, I don't think we could do it, but we could certainly put some pressure there. And possibly put some pressure there, threatening to block these off. 1, 2, and 3. So the question is, do the SDF want to keep these units up there, or in their turn will they move back? Yeah, will they voluntarily move back and sort of maybe withdraw their front line to something like that? So these units, will these all just move back? You know, anticipating what's going to happen, or are they going to push forward and just really complicate things? Because we could move this big stack here forward and double up on these lines and just make it so slow. Then we've got this stuff here, because that's the thing about this that's quite specific, is that these are just small stacks, so you don't have the scope of doing lots and lots. That's why I was quite specific at the beginning about not using the infantry units. Now if you wanted to use the infantry units, I'm pretty sure you could make much faster gains. I like this pencil tool, look at that, it just looks so good. Anyway, I'm not going to go any further because I want to shut my eyes. Yeah, but sometimes I wonder whether the drawing tool is better than the game. I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.